descend and maintain 2074.
Who am I?
Comet 504, descend and maintain 3000. 3000, Comet 504.
And for Captain 724 is our scrapping about our...
In my 20s, I dream of flying a plane. Due to having glasses, I thought it's not possible. In mid-2016, I started to have foggy vision. After I checked out, the doctor said I have cataract in both my eyes. Wow! I really never expect this. I felt like taking a trip to the moon, jumping up and down. I'm filled with excitement. But the unexpected turns out into my reality. The cold, hard truth. I need to step into divorce. My mom said her final goodbye, and my family broke apart. I stepped into a solitude journey. This is the best journey I ever experienced. It was super challenging. My achievement, the award-winning author from housewife to pilot, the beginning.
Comet 504, descend and maintain 3000. 3000, Comet 504.
I'm Keiko Lim. I'm here holding your hands, guiding you every steps to discover your potential, harness that energy, bring it to your reality, and make your dreams come true.
Comet 504, reduced speed of 170 per tower space. You get following a Boeing 727, 1 o'clock, 6 miles right base, descending on a 3500.
Welcome to Tuesday with Keiko. Today, my guest speaker is Ben. Ben is a certified NLP practitioner, life coach, and a member of International Guild of Hypnotherapy. With a background in mechanics and a significant personal transformation over the past 4 years, Ben has delved deep into psychology, philosophy, and personal development. After earning NVQ Level 2 and 3 in light vehicle diagnostics and repair, and working in the trade for 8 years, Ben transitioned to a fulfilling career in sales, leveraging strong interpersonal skills and building relationships. Passionate about public speaking and sharing valuable lessons and tools, Ben is dedicated to help others achieve their own transformation. Connect for networking opportunities, partnerships, and to share insights.
Hi, Keiko.
Welcome.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Really excited to get going
Yeah.
and have a conversation.
Tell the audience, how do you manage to get into the breakthrough?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the best place to start is probably like defining the term. So, what is a breakthrough? And I'm sure there's lots of explanations and terminology. There's probably a definition in the dictionary, but I'm not going to use that because I'm rubbish at English. So I'm going to make up my own one. And for me, what a breakthrough is, it's a decision, but a decision you take action on, because we all have kind of thoughts and insights and ideas. But how often do we actually do something with it? And for me, at least, I think there's two ways to kind of reach that breakthrough, and that's inspiration on one hand and desperation on the other. Because in my life, at least, I don't know about yours and our viewers, but most of the time I found that those breakthroughs have happened when I'm in that desperation, when I feel like something's got to change, when I feel like something must change. And that's not to say we have to be in that position or that place, because there's ways of bringing that forward, and I'm going to share that. But for me, I guess my big breakthrough, I guess, was 4 years ago, when I finally left the motor trade. But that started a long time before that. So I left school at 16 and became a car mechanic. And it was only after probably 6 months or so that I realized that it wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't enjoy it, and I needed to kind of look elsewhere. But I had those same stories, those same beliefs about myself and about how I wasn't capable, or how I can't do anything, or how I'm too stupid, too dumb. We all have these stories and these limiting beliefs about ourselves that stop us from doing the
Yeah,
things we
that's
want
right.
and doing the things
Yeah.
we know would benefit us, our family, our friends, and ultimately how we feel about ourselves. And after being in that for 8 years, I stayed in that career, being unhappy, unfulfilled, frustrated, irritated. Um, I finally had this moment, this breakthrough, and that was when I was working at a classic car garage, which is one of my childhood dreams was to be a car mechanic. And I brought this car in, and it was in a BMW E24 6 Series in silver, beautiful car. And I brought it in, put it on the ramp, and I started taking it apart, and I was replacing what's called a slave cylinder. And your slave cylinder, you push the brake pedal, it pushes the slave cylinder, and that sends your brake fluid round your brakes and puts your brakes on. So you're all now fully qualified car
Yeah.
mechanic. So congratulations. And it all came apart nice and easy. I did a few nuts, few bolts, easy peasy. And then I went to fit the new slave cylinder. And as I was putting what's called the unions, which is what hold the pipes to the slave,
Yeah.
it was twisting and bulking and like going in wonky. And this went on for probably 30, 45 minutes, and I was growing more and more frustrated. And what would usually happen in this situation would be that I'd start swearing, I'd start throwing spanners, and just generally blaming everyone other than myself. I know you're probably thinking that I'm a hothead, and the fact is I am. But and it was different this time though. I didn't swear, I didn't throw any spanners, I didn't start blaming anyone. I just simply lay over the bonnet of this BMW 24 and declared to myself, the universe, that I was officially done. Because it's only when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change that we actually do something to change that circumstance. That when the pain of whatever circumstance you find yourself in is more scary than the uncertainty or the unknowing of stepping into something different.
Yep.
And later that day, I then applied for a ton of jobs because I was just like, I've had enough. And I think that's why being at your rock bottom, and again, that's different for everyone, can be your greatest gift, because it's the moment that it's easy to make that new decision. So I applied, went home, applied for a load of jobs, came in the next day, and I was working on another car. I was replacing a pedal box, so I was underneath the dash, kind of nuts and bolts again, legs up in the air, and my phone started to ring. So I picked up my phone and answered it, and it was this lady called Zara from Zara's Doggy Daycare. And it was in that moment she wanted me to come in for an interview, and in that moment I realized that I didn't have to keep doing this thing which I hated, that I'd been doing for the
Mm.
last 8 years of my life, that was taking me to a place where I didn't really want to wake up anymore, where I didn't want to participate in the life I'd created. And I don't think we have to wait for those moments. We can change ahead of time. But
Yeah, we can
here's
create that moment.
100%, and we can bring that rather than experiencing that. I looked around at all the other guys I was working with who were 20 years older than me, like 42, 43, not old at all, young men, quite frankly. And they were just as miserable. And the fact that I could see that, it was like, that's me in 20 years, still miserable, still hating my job, still unsatisfied and unfulfilled. So what I want to invite people to do to kind of access your own breakthrough and speed up that process, because I feel like a lot of self-help and personal development can be quite airy-fairy. So I want to give you something tangible to kind of work on here. And it's called future pacing. So future pacing is when you look into the future, and we look, if I stay, so for my example, if I stay in this job as a car mechanic when I already feel unsatisfied and unhappy, what's that going to cost me in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, like my colleagues? And how am I going to talk to myself? How am I going to look at myself? What kind of husband am I going to be to my wife? What kind of father am I going to be to my children? If I allow this thing to permeate for the rest of my life, and then write down in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, what your life could be like if you stepped into that uncertainty, if you took that risk and it paid off. Not that you're, all of a sudden you're a millionaire and rolling around in money, but it went well, because we
It's
have
like
to.
if you're doing something that you love.
100%. And life's easy when you're doing something you love. You don't think about anything else. When you're in love, and your new partner, your girlfriend, asks you to take out the bin, you're like, of course I'll take out the bin, my angel. Whereas when you're 10, 20 years down the line, you're like, take out the trash, man, take out that trash. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have to use the carrot and the stick. Like it's that pain and that pleasure, and that's ultimately what rules our life, is that principle of pain and pleasure. Everything we do in our life, we do for two reasons: to avoid pain or to get pleasure. So in order to access your breakthrough, you can either wait for that situation, that unfavorable situation, or you can create
Arise.
it in your mind ahead of time, and see what it's really costing you, and give yourself the energy, the activation, the motivation, the inspiration to take action on that, because nothing changes until you do something to change it. So turn your desperation, your frustration, to motivation, to inspiration. And we can all do that. And that takes 10 minutes with a piece of paper and a pen. And honestly, you'll start seeing the cost.
Yeah. It is so powerful.
Thank you, Keiko.
How you get clarity of what you love doing?
Great question. I mean, gain clarity on what you love doing. I think we all kind of intuitively know what we love. I mean, as somebody who's got
Yes.
about 6 different hobbies, and there's a slight tinge of ADHD there somewhere. As you can see, a fish tank over here, that's another hobby I had for a bit. But and ukulele there it is. That's another hobby. And some pictures. I'm into my photography, and that's another one. I think we all know what we love. We all know what we enjoy. But over time, we get conditioned or programmed by friends, family, teachers, society, media about what is and isn't possible for us, or what we can and can't do. And as we learn these new as we inherit other people's beliefs, other people's programs, it makes us kind of forget what it is we love, or not value what it is we love anymore. So I would start by saying that, don't listen to that voice that isn't yours, that's other people have put inside your head, and
Yeah, that's
listen to your
true.
voice. And then again, one thing that helped me when I was kind of getting out in the motor trade and kind of taking my first kind of tentative steps into a new career was writing down not only what I wanted and what I loved and what my goals were, but what I hated, what I wasn't going to accept, what my standards were. Because in life, so many times we set these goals, but how often do we achieve them? I don't know about you, Keiko, but
Yeah.
I've got
It's
plenty of
so
goals
true.
I'm still
Yes.
trying to achieve, and they're from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And
I guess in the end we can put it as a bucket list.
exactly, we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. And as long as we're taking action towards it and remind ourselves of it, which we can do journaling every day when we wake up, we'll get there. So
Yeah.
don't stress yourself about that. But how often have you? I mean, have you ever wrote down what your standards are? Do you have a list of your
No.
standards? No.
No.
And the thing is, in life, we don't necessarily get our goals, but we always get our standards. Because if you're in a relationship again, if
You
your
meet the same
partner,
person over and over
exactly,
again.
and if they're not treating you in a way which is your standard that you expect to be treated, if they're not looking
Mm.
after themselves in a way that you expect them to look after, they're reach that standard, then they're not going to be
Yeah.
in your life for very long. If you
They are
start a
like,
job,
controlling you.
exactly, and it's the
Yeah.
same with a job. If your job isn't paying you well, if you're not getting treated well, if you're not progressing, if it doesn't meet your standards, what do? You look elsewhere. So we don't get
Yeah.
our goals, but we always get our standards. So when you're looking potentially at, you know, how to gain clarity and what your next steps are, whether that's personal or professional, write down your goals, what you want, but also what are your standards? What are the things you're not willing to accept? Because when I was kind of looking for a new career, I had no idea what I was going to do next. You know, I'm dyslexic, so straight away I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. I can't do anything else other than fix things. And again, that's a limiting belief, and there's, you know, that's a whole
Yes.
different topic. But I had to write down what in my next role I wanted, but what were my standards? What did I have to have? And I think that's such a powerful tool, is that it's not just about what we love, but it's about what we hate, because what we hate jots out a path to taking us to where we love and where we want to be. And I think in that, be the scientist of your own life. Experiment, try new hobbies, try volunteering, try different jobs, especially if you're young, because if you can get it right now, you reap the rewards. It's like compounding interest for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to not know the next step, because I didn't, and ultimately it's led me to a career in sales, which I love. But one last thing on clarity. Again, I want to leave you with the tools, not just words, because words are great, but action is what changes things. And that's, again, another thing I did before I changed that career, to figure out what that next step was and what that first role was like preceding that, following that even. And that was through an exercise called Ikigai. Now, have you heard
Yeah,
of
that
Ikigai?
is really, yes, that is really powerful, because
Yeah.
it's like, you know, you draw a 5 circle, and you put down what you love doing,
Mhm.
what is your personality. Am I
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So it's 5 circles. It's what you love, what you can get paid for, what the world needs, and what you're good at. And then the 5th box is the one in the circle, which is where all those things kind of come together. So
mm,
one of the guys I worked with at the time told me about, he was kind of going through a fairly similar kind of process, but he is a great mechanic. He always wanted to be a mechanic, and it suited him perfectly. It even came up in his
mm,
Ikigai. And Ikigai in Japanese is a reason for being. That's the direct translation. And essentially, you do 4 circles, and you write what you love, what you can get paid for, what you're good at, and what the world needs. And you fill them
mm,
out. And then what you're going to start seeing is there's going to be a pattern. There's going to be things that show up in each one of these boxes where your passion meets your purpose, but you can get paid, and stuff like that. And then the fifth circle is in the center, and you write down all the things that came up in multiple sections, and then you can follow that. Again, it's almost like what I was saying about hate. It's about leaving the breadcrumbs to follow. And the Ikigai, is such a powerful tool, and there's a great book on it, which I'll be honest, I haven't read. But go do the exercise is what I would say, especially if you're looking for a transition in career or direction in your life. Write down what your goals,
yes, that is really
what your
powerful.
wants, what are your standards, and then go through your Ikigai. All of this, again, you can do it in 30 minutes, but people don't
Mm,
invest time in themselves or energy in themselves. They just, like we were talking earlier, we sleepwalk through life until something kind of shakes us and wakes us up, whether that's losing a family member, whether that's having a near death experience, or just
mm,
being so dissatisfied with your life, like I was, that you don't even want to be here anymore. And again, that's a gift. All of those things are gifts if we look at them in that way. We can't necessarily change the circumstances of the past, but we can change our perception and the story we tell ourselves about the things that have happened. And then I guess it's in that as well. The thing that came up for me in all these different sections was welding. I always enjoyed
mm,
welding for some reason. I was pretty good at it, and I then looked for welding jobs that kind of met my requirements, my standards, and then I found one. I worked at an events company for 3 months as a metal fabricator, which then led to another job as a metal fabricator at a furniture company, and then I got into some sales stuff whilst I was there, and then I was like, oh, maybe I want to follow this sales thing. And
mm.
it's not necessarily having all of the answers, or like having to have it figured out. Steve Jobs didn't know he was going to be making and designing phones when he made the first computer.
True.
But
Yeah,
we have to trust in get in the flow of life, get trust in the process, whether
yeah,
that's have faith, and that's not necessarily in God, the universe, but have faith in yourself, because you're more resourceful, you're more intelligent, more resilient than you can ever realize. But we play small, and we sleepwalk through life. And I'm so grateful that I was so unhappy, and I got to that point when I was so young, because I probably would still be a car mechanic and probably still be unhappy if I didn't get to that place, if I was just okay and satisfied. But if you hate something, that can be the thing that drives you towards action. And welcome to my cat in the background. He's decided to join us. We'll scoot him off. Go on, get off. Me and Keiko
Nice.
were introducing our cats earlier, and both of them
Yeah.
looked just as disgruntled as each other at being picked up and flaunted at the camera. I don't know if you can cut that into the
That
video or something.
yeah, that is how cats like. They don't like being picked up.
Amazing. So yeah, so I guess in terms of finding your clarity, go through those
Mm,
exercises, do your ikigai, write down what your
yeah.
goals, what your wants, and what your standards being really important. Again, we're looking at that pain and pleasure principle. Our goals, pleasure; our standards, pain. And then don't feel like you have to have it all figured out straight away. Just start pulling the thread of life, and then it will kind of unravel. And have faith in yourself, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And step
Yeah,
into it.
true. And the third question is, what is the takeaway for our viewers?
I guess the takeaway, I'm going to try and kind of summarize what I've said there in a kind of short, concise way, is that your for your breakthrough, your one decision, one moment away
Mm,
from changing any aspect of your life. And that doesn't mean it's going to change straight away.
no,
It
it's
may
not. It
that
takes years.
exactly. And I mean,
Mm,
we were speaking before about how long we've kind of been on
yes,
our own journeys, and neither of us
exactly.
are the complete project or like the neat little package in a bow. But
Yeah.
it's a journey. It's a journey, and
Yes,
but
it is a
that
journey.
that starts with a decision. And what my definition of a decision is, a decision isn't a decision until you commit to it, until you take action upon it. As Tony Robbins always says, never leave the site of decision without taking action towards its attainment. So as soon as you have that inspiration, that insight, that idea, do something. Do what can I do right now in this moment that's going to make me follow through on it later? Because we're all lazy, scared, and uncertain about so many things. So if you have
Totally
that inspiration,
agree.
use it straight away,
Mm,
and jump in it. So yeah, much like me leaning over the bonnet of that BMW when I finally decided that I was done. You're one moment, just like I was, from changing any aspect of your life. And if you're unhappy, if you're sad, if you're angry, that's a gift. If you look at it as a gift, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Everywhere you go, you take yourself. So maybe try asking
because
yourself a better
it
question
is
for
it's
you,
not
not to you.
happening to us. It's happening for us.
Amen. Exactly that. And
Yeah.
that's easier said than done. but
Yeah,
but by
true.
changing our language, and this is where the NLP comes into it, by changing the way we use our language, out loud, what we say about ourselves or say about a situation, or internally in our own head. If you say, I'm devastated, I'm furious, I'm heartbroken, that creates a biological response in your body. Whereas if you say, oh, it's no big deal, whatever, it just, you know it is what it is, and you move on, you're literally telling your body and your mind that this isn't a big deal. We can come back from this. Or ask yourself a better question, like, how is this an opportunity to grow? How is this an opportunity? Like, what is this teaching me? How is this going to serve me in the future? And by our thinking is just a series of asking and answering questions. So if you ask a rubbish question, you're going to get a rubbish answer. And that's one of the biggest things. And I wasn't kind of planning on talking about it, but the power that language has, not only externally in terms of how we speak to out loud to other people, but how we speak to ourselves in our own heads. And if you want to change the way you think, change the language you use, and change the questions you ask, and you will dramatically change the landscape of your mind. I think a part of that, of being able to change that language and see those patterns, is by cultivating our awareness. And there's a
Yeah,
few
that is
ways
so
you can do that.
important.
100%, because it's only when we
Mm,
realize that that we're imprisoned in our own minds that we can escape.
mm,
And the first step of changing a problem is accepting that you have one. So, and again, we have all these unconscious programs and beliefs and thoughts that other people have put into our heads, but we're not aware of them, and we spend our whole life reacting rather than responding to things. And if we can cultivate and grow that awareness, water the kind of the soil of our awareness through things like meditation, like breath work, like journaling,
mm.
we can start to see those patterns. We can start to see those reoccurring thoughts, those reoccurring like language we use, the questions we ask ourselves, like, oh, I always do this, I always ruin things. And that'll be a pattern. That is something you've programmed yourself to ask. So if you can gain the awareness on that, you can go, oh, wait a minute, no, I don't want to talk to myself like that anymore. And then every time you do it moving forwards, you're going to be like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And just by just by seeing it, it means you can change it and influence it. So
Mm.
realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the thing that observes your thoughts. So don't identify so heavily with the self, and know that you can control this thing called your brain.
Yeah,
By
we got no control in everything. What we can
100%.
control is our reaction.
Three things we can control: the way we react to people, the things we say, and the
Yes.
attitude we bring to it. Yeah, our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. We can't change what
Mm,
other people do. We can't change how the world is. We can influence these things, but we can't change them. And when you
that's right.
realize that, you free up so much energy, because you're not trying to change people. You're not trying to change the world. You're just being the best version of yourself you can be, because ultimately that's what's going to help your friends, your family, and the world. It's like the I'm sure you've all seen it. It's like that. It's like a picture of one person who's like glowing with happiness or whatever, and he goes meets these other people, and then he makes him happy, and then this knock-on effect. If you just ask someone like,
Mm,
oh, "How are you today?" Like, oh, "I hope you have a great day," like a stranger when you're getting your shopping or something like that, that can have such a huge knock-on effect. And yeah, every day is an opportunity to kind of to make someone smile, to make someone happy, because that's how you change the world. It's not by legislation, it's not or big industry. It's by being a decent human being, and being the best version of yourself for people
yeah.
around you. Um,
To be the better version of ourselves.
100%. And again, easy to say, hard to do,
Mm,
but just try and cultivate that awareness. Set up practices in your life, like the journaling, like meditation, like breath work, even if it's 5 minutes, because you'll start to see
mm,
what's happening in here. And when you see what's happening in here, you can start changing the stories. You can start asking different questions, changing your language, and I think that's ultimately how you can create a breakthrough, how you can gain clarity on what is happening in your life. And if there's one last thing, become the curator of your own life. We have so many different things in our lives. I like to call them taps and drains. If you imagine yourself as a bucket, you have taps that fill you up, and drains that drain you. Start
mm.
curating your life. Start doing more of the things that fill you with joy, with vitality, with happiness, with energy, and stop doing the things that drain you. Stop
Drain
talking to
your
the people
energy.
that drain you.
Yes.
Stop going to the places that drain you, because
Yeah.
people only get what's left over of us. And if our bucket's empty, we've got nothing to give to anyone else. So be selfish, but it's not selfish, because people only get what's left of you. So feed yourself emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, and what you'll see is not only your own life change, but everyone else's life around you change, not because of what you said, but because of what you do and how you behave. So
That is so true.
that's
Yeah.
what I'd like to leave the audience with. There's a whole lot of stuff there, but hopefully there's something you can take away. And I think, again, it's all in the exercises. It's not in words. It's not essentially in listening to this podcast. Hopefully this has kind of triggered a thought that's going to kind of persist. Maybe it's the awareness thing about how I talk to myself, and that one thing might change. But what I would say is do the future pacing, because there's going to be an area in your life that you want to change, and
Yeah.
write out how that's going to pan out in the next 5 years if you keep it the same, or if you changed, write out how that's going to pan out in the next 5 years. Write down your standards, because that's what you get,
Yeah, that's
and
very important.
then go through your ikigai.
Mm.
Ikigai. I never know how
Yeah.
to say it.
Ikigai.
Ikigai. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll take your
That
word for
that
it.
that is really very important, because it's like when I saw my mom step into Alzheimer's journey, seeing my siblings that take care of her when they were frustrated with her
Yeah.
repeating the same question over and over again. Maybe in her mind had that question, and why are you treating me without respect? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was into that environment for so long.
Mhm.
I guess that's the reason why whenever I appeared, she told me she was so happy to see me.
The distance makes the heart grow fonder, isn't it? And it's
Yeah.
that pain of being apart, but that makes it even more magical when you're together, and the pleasure of being together. Do you know what I mean? And I guess
Yes.
you're kind of disconnected from the monotony and struggles of I guess your siblings whilst going through that. So you come to it with a completely different perspective, um,
Yes.
with a different
That's right.
prescription, as we were saying earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it could be, again, it's all about your perspective. It could be a horrible thing and it makes you really sad, which I'm sure it did. But also, what a gift that you could give your mum that, in her last,
It
you know,
is.
couple of years and stuff like that. Whereas your siblings couldn't, because they were so
They
close to it.
face her
So
every day. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. So and again, that comes back to we we choose how we get to see things. And you can, even the worst stuff, you can put a positive spin on it and see the beauty in that, because there's always beauty in things,
In
especially in the hardest
everything.
times,
Yes.
because it reveals what,
Mm.
the extremes of the human condition.
Yeah, it's
um,
sad to see what she been through.
yeah,
That is so important to step out to work on our purpose. We are souls on earth, that we
mm,
have a soul mission to fulfill on earth.
100%. And I think that's that
Yeah.
thing, kind of what I was saying earlier, is when people lose a family member, or
Yeah, that is a
have
huge impact.
have that near death experience. Luckily enough, I haven't experienced either of those yet in my life, but it completely shifts your perspective and
Yes.
what you value, because what we realize is we're not promised forever, like, and this lie that we tell ourselves that, oh, I'll do it tomorrow is never. The only thing we're promised is today, so let's make the most of that, and by doing that, you can make a huge impact.
Yeah, that is really important. It's so true. Tomorrow may never come. You never know.
So let's make the most of today. 100%.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add, or any message you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I guess I'd leave it. I post on Instagram, also a few bits on TikTok, but that I'm going to be changing my platform on that, so that'll be a little bit different. But I'm always kind of doing bits and bobs here and there, and I'll be doing another thing for Movember, which is where I've done it for the last 3 years. Every day of Movember, I'll post a different video on like tips, tricks, and like ways I kind of manage my mental health and my emotional well-being. So keep an eye on that, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of good stuff coming in the next couple of months. And also, hopefully, before the end of the year, I'll also be releasing my online course, which is essentially how to change your mind, your life, and your future. And it kind of touches on quite a few things we've gone over today. And essentially, I just want to help other people have the same experience and transformation that I've had over the last 4 years, in a shorter time period. So I've cherry picked the best bits, and now I'm looking to share it with other people and make a difference.
That's great message. We appreciate your time and expertise.
No, thank you, Kiko. It's
And
been great.
yeah, where can our audience find you?
So Men's Mental Mastery on Instagram. I'm sure there'll probably be a link somewhere. And
Yes.
that's pretty much it at the moment. So just keep an eye on that, and I'm sure over the coming years, you'll see my socials kind of grow and expand, hopefully. And I look forward to hopefully
That's
meeting
for
some of you.
sure. That's for sure. Your social will expand.
Amazing,
Fantastic. We'll
amazing.
be
Thank you,
sure
Keiko.
to
I really
include
enjoyed
those
today.
links in the YouTube description box. And thank you once again for being with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Has indeed.
And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this interview, please subscribe and leave us a review or share it with others who might find interesting. Until next time,
Thank you, Kiko. Cheers, everyone.
you're welcome. Bye.